Welcome to the Respect the Drive podcast. This is the first episode, and after a few failed attempts on YouTube, I kind of tried to do this on YouTube with the video thing, me and Eddie and a few other guests. It just wasn't working out, so we're going to go pure audio. Now, in the future, this could eventually become a live recorded video podcast, but for now, I think we're going to stick to trying to keep this directly to the Spotify, the iTunes, the Google Play, all of that fun stuff. But today we have Zach Sweatt, an ex-Porsche salesman, and he's now working in a different industry. We'll get into that in a bit, but Porsches are hot. Everyone's talking about, I've got the exclusive GT3. I've got this.
They're pretty cool.
and it's true. They're great cars. I am definitely a fanboy. But they're not rare by any stretch of the imagination, and everyone wants to have their special thing. They want theirs to be different than everybody else's.
So it's funny, I wasn't a fanboy of Porsche until I started working for Porsche. Like it wasn't like the end-all be-all type of brand that I was like, that's it, that's the pillar, that's the cars, and now I am like one of the biggest diehards out there. Like I'll still defend 718 Boxsters to this day.
We're
such a controversial car.
We're going to talk about that actually. But aren't you, that makes you like the perfect employee because you went and drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah, every day.
And
I got like an IV of the stuff.
And it's stuck with you though. Like that Kool-Aid didn't go away. That Kool-Aid, like you still like Porsches even though you don't sell them anymore.
Love them. I still like every single press release, every single article. I soak every single bit of that up. Like I just can't get enough of the brand, the cars, the whole philosophy, how the brand got started, everything that just goes into making the product what it is. It's such a different brand than other brands out there. They're truly like endurance race cars for the street.
But you didn't start there.
No, not at all.
Where did your cars? I mean, so
how did I start?
A young Zach Sweatt graduates high school. What's his first decision as an adult?
Honda lube oil technician.
Classic.
So I was fortunate enough through my high school, I had a 2-year vocational automotive program that would, teach you all the basics of car maintenance, working on cars.
That was in like a public school?
Yeah. I don't know why people don't take advantage of it enough. I feel as though people think that,
In Maine, you had that?
Yeah. And they have multiple programs all throughout multiple states as well. So half the day I was in vocational automotive school. So from like 9 or whatever they start, like 8:30 to lunchtime, I would be in vocational automotive class. So, tearing engines apart, learning about suspension systems, learning how to put cars on lifts, electrical theory, how a car is wired. So all of that good stuff.
We did not have that.
Yeah.
We were allowed to park at school. That was basically as far
you had
as
a
that
assigned
went.
spot. Did you have assigned spots?
I did, 96.
Nice.
96, my little blue Volkswagen Mark III Golf with at the time, 196,000 miles.
Uh-huh.
I felt like I was hot shit. It was lowered like an inch.
Uh-huh.
Had those 5-spoke 16-inch low profile.
I had an E30, 88 325E. The worst version. It was interesting.
Nothing like a 4,000 RPM red line on like a non-diesel car. Right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I think it was like close to 5,000. It was such a weird car.
I did a video on one in North Carolina because my ex-boyfriend had.
Oh, that's right.
One. Yeah, and it was cool.
The gray with blue interior, right?
Yeah,
what an odd spec.
The worst spec.
Yeah,
but like if you saw that, then you'd be horrified.
Yeah, that wouldn't. Well, actually, I think on newer cars it can really work. Like, have you seen like a nice silver car with like a dark blue interior?
Yeah,
that works out nicely.
So the car that I drove, it was like 300 and something thousand miles. It was the first owner. They bought that car new.
My odometer broke. I didn't know how much it had.
Classic.
That's like a classic problem with those cars too. When it comes to the odometer, like the gears in it, they just wear themselves.
Did you buy
out.
that car? Like, did you find that car?
$400. Yeah, down in New Hampshire.
What?
I grew up in Southern Maine, so it was the next state over in New Hampshire.
So you guys like cars? Cars were a part of your life?
Yeah, I never had.
Did your parents care?
They enjoyed their cars. Like they always they just had working cars, but it wasn't anything special. Like I learned how to drive. My mom had a 98 Accord EX manual transmission, black with a beige interior that I learned to drive on. So first car was a stick. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, and seeing as I know a little bit about you, did you ever drive that car illegally, Zach?
100%. Yeah, I would take it at night. How old was I? I was honestly probably like 12 or 13 years old, and I would be driving the car at night. I would just steal it and just drive it around on back roads in Maine. Well, so I grew up in a small town called Shapley. It's about northwest from Sanford, if anybody's familiar with that area. And it's just a super hilly, rural type of town. I think there's probably one streetlight in the center of town. So nobody really cared, or they never caught me. So
Yikes.
I guess they never cared.
Well, also your dad was
as a deputy up there. Yeah,
so
yeah,
if you were to get caught,
it never got caught. But if I was, that'd be interesting.
Little extra privilege. It would have been like it's like the preacher's son.
No, when I got pulled over, like later in life in like neighboring towns, I would certainly get an earful like 5-10 minutes later after one of the cops pulled me over. They're like, "Are you Deputy Sweatt's son?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Whoops.
Yeah. What big whoops. That's all right. Those are during my crazier years.
All right, so you're now not 13 stealing your parents' cars.
No.
You're in high school. You've done some vocational stuff, so you know that you like working on cars.
Yeah, and so through the vocational high school, you had to do an internship at some type of automotive related shop, whether it was an AutoZone or a car dealership or a mom and pop type of setup. And so my vocational school had a great working relationship with a local Honda dealership, Prime Honda in Saco, Maine. And so that's how I got my first job.
This is not sponsored.
Yeah, exactly. Went on there as a just like a lube tech. So after school, like I'd get out at around 2. I would just head right over there. It took me about a half hour to get there, and then just work from then until closing. When it's like 5 or 6 o'clock.
How'd you end up going from that to sales?
So. Funny stories with that. Okay, so
also, how old are you at this point? You're like 19, right?
No, I was young. I was like 17.
Okay, because this is still in high school.
Yeah, this is still in high school. My first job was working at Fun Foods. It was a Funtown Splashdown USA in Saco. I was a cashier there, and I dress up in pizza boxes and serve people food. It was hilarious.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that was a pretty fun time.
Rural America is
very
something
rural America
else.
Stuff. Yeah. So I went on board with Honda after I left high school. So I tried college for a semester, and I just didn't like it. I'm like, I can do so much more just by my education and just how much fun I'm having. Like, I'm just gonna go ahead and go full time into the automotive industry and see where it takes me, because I knew that I wanted to be with performance cars. Like, that's what drove me. Massive car enthusiast growing up. Like, my walls were covered with head to toe with all the clippings from Car and Driver and Road and Track, Motor Trend, of just, cars.
I'm impressed that you were able to make that decision at that age. Like, for me, I didn't like school. It was an expectation that I went to college. I knew I was going to, because I thought, I don't know what I thought. I've never known what I'm doing while I'm doing it. It's always been like, I've fallen into by accident every single thing I've ever done.
I feel as though I've had a lot of both accidents, but also chances. Like, it's been just a leap of faith. Like, go ahead and do this and see what happens.
I think I also, because I grew up in that like Catholic mindset, when
the Catholic guilt.
Right. Well, it means that whatever you do, if you don't like it, it means you're doing it right. Right. So like for me going to college, like I loved it because it was the first time that I had like friends that I could trust, and that like the first time, all my friends in high school were like girls. I didn't have good guy friends. It was the first time I was
Mine was
going
the exact opposite. I never got along with girls.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and so
to
when
this
I went
day, I only have like 1 or 2 girls that I consider like really close friends.
that's why I think college was a big deal for me, was because it was like a big social experiment. It was like the first time that I felt accepted by people. So although maybe the workload and what I was doing, I was like, what on earth am I doing? Like, I am not doing thermodynamics and calculation. Like, who the hell am I going to work for doing this? This is crazy talk. But I got through it, and even though it was a struggle, I definitely failed a few classes, definitely retook some classes, took some summer schools. I did the stay in school kid thing, but I never would have made the decision to leave it because of the Catholic guilt. And it's funny, I'm not even religious. It's not like I was like, I did my first communion. That was 8 years old. I was like, I'm renouncing my religion. That was pretty much it. But I think that I never, doing anything, whether it's a job or school, I never had that confidence to say, hey, I'm done. I never quit anything except for like musical instruments. Sorry, Dad.
it was this, with my thing was either if I'm getting treated unfairly or someone has an unfair advantage that I didn't have, and I was quickly able to recognize that. Whenever any place that I want to work, I want to make sure that myself and everyone's on an even playing field, and that the true hard work and determination that you put into it is something that is rewarded. And someone that doesn't have that type of work ethic or doesn't want to work hard but expects to be paid the same as myself or more than myself just doesn't make any sense to me. Good work should pay off.
Yeah.
So talking about leaving Honda and going, how did I get into sales, right? So,
right. Well, you're a lube tech.
Lube tech.
Zach, lube tech. I hope somewhere on a LinkedIn profile
it says lube tech.
Zach, lube tech.
I think it says entry level technician.
Ew. An entry lube tech.
Entry. Oh,
yikes.
Sounds so gross. Just a lube tech over here. What do you need lubed? So I was getting sick and tired of busting my knuckle on other people's cars that just didn't take care of their cars.
Well, I can't imagine what it's like having to literally bust a nut off of a main car.
Oh yeah,
everything's rusted.
So everything is rusted out, and lug nuts are snapping off as I'm taking the wheels off. Yeah, it just wasn't a pretty sight.
Terrible.
Or screws or just the heads of them are just busting off. It just wasn't a fun experience. I should say it is fun because working on cars day in and day out is kind of cool. But I really loved talking about the cars. So I jumped from a technician into a service writer position. So I was a Honda service writer for only a couple of months. And that was pretty cool, but ran into the same problem where people general population just doesn't take care of their car well. But we're working at a Honda dealership, so it's not like we're dealing with like high-end cars or anything like that.
Right, but that almost makes it worse. If I go into, for example, Porsche and I'm like, hey, I see you've got this like 2016 991, right? 991.1. And
it's 16, yeah.
Right. And you're like, oh, there's this great Carrera S and it's in this cool spec. I'm interested in it. They're not going to bat an eye at me. They're going to be like, oh, just go drive it and just come back whenever. Like if I did that at a Honda dealership, they'd be like, we're going to need to see everything,
photo ID, documentation.
And we're gonna Google you, and it's like
harder. Run your credit.
I have like a harder time driving normal cars than I do driving supercars when it comes to testing them.
I'd almost agree with that sentiment.
Isn't that
it's
weird?
Really funny when you go into like a Honda dealership and not that the like a Type R or the Toyota Supra like is anything crazy, but it'll be roped off.
Yeah,
which I find so funny because I'll have 911s.
But like if I went to a McLaren Boston right now and I was like, hey, I want to go drive a 570S, they'd be like, yeah, right. Who are you? But if I go to there's a level where like Porsche, it's easy to just jump in and be like, hi, I'm like a human. Like I could probably afford $100,000 car. Like as far as they're concerned, everyone can afford a Macan. Everyone can afford
for the most part. We wouldn't really judge, not so much judge someone, but when you have people coming in, they let off some really telltale signs if they're just there to rip a 911 around,
right?
Or if they're actually a real customer to drive that type of car.
So now we're at Honda.
So technician to service advisor. Didn't really like service advisor, so I was talking with the sales manager, and I was like, "Hey, can I sell cars?" And he's like, "Absolutely, you can sell cars." So his name is Zach as well. So
we stick together.
Yeah, Zach stick together. So. He's like, you want to sell cars? I'm like, yeah, I want to sell cars. So he walked with me over to my service manager's office and he's like, Zach wants to sell cars. And my service manager looks at me. He's like, is this true? I'm like, yeah.
What is it? Like you've broken ranks. You've just changed the tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this true?
Is this true? And it was that type of like, I can't believe it.
Are you sure? Are you sure this is what you're, because there's no coming back. You'll never change another oil
again. Not in these parts. So that sparked my career selling Hondas, and I loved it. I loved selling Hondas. It's so much fun.
There's some videos of you.
Oh, we'll have to link some of those.
Yeah, they're funny because you're like adorable. You're like 20 years old, 19, 20 years old.
18, 19.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Long. So, here I was like 17 going on 18 selling Hondas. So did that for, I think, 9 or 10 months. And I'm like, I really want to get with a more enthusiast-based brand. Selling CRVs and pilots is cool, is not fun. Every once in a while I talk to somebody about a Civic Si, but it's not as,
great.
Not great. I'm not talking with constant, enthusiast-based car or car enthusiasts all day long.
Right.
Just they're looking for A to B appliances, right? Honda does make a fantastic car.
Yeah, we all respect Honda. We all respect their heritage, but we also understand that they sell Accords. Yeah. And I like an Accord.
Accords
I love Accords.
Yeah, but
I want to drive a Porsche.
So I went to Volkswagen. So
closer.
We're getting closer. So went to our Volkswagen dealership I should have gone into sales, but I went in as a service writer because it was the only available position open. So
what's a service writer?
Advisor. So when you come in and something's wrong with your car, or you need scheduled work or something like that, they write the repair order to say oil change your tire, or rotate your tires, whatever the case might be. So did that. People are awful when it comes to maintaining their cars. Like as how anal I am and how anal you are with
I don't wash my cars, but they mechanically are fine.
Yeah, very.
I think you've washed my cars personally more than I've ever washed my cars.
Probably. I'm pretty pretty anal with that.
Probably accurate.
So this is pretty funny. So we get weekly emails. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday that said what jobs are available throughout the motor group that I was working at.
Nothing like that corporate newsletter.
Yeah, corporate newsletter.
Ooh, what's new?
What positions are available? So it said Porsche salesperson, and I was like, oh my god, I want to be a Porsche sales guy.
What did you know about Porsches?
They're cool.
Yeah. See, the only reason I knew
sixes, rear engine, but that's like, I had a pretty layman's term. I drove the only Porsche I've driven up to that point was like a 986 base.
Yeah, my introduction, like the first Porsche I was ever in was my friend's 87 Targa.
Okay.
And I remember seeing it and I'm like, oh, these are garbage, aren't they? Like I really thought those were shit.
Were
like
garbage
I thought
cars.
They were bad cars.
Yeah.
I
always knew the Jeremy Clarkson, like, just hated them, and he called them Beetles and this, that, and the other, and he always trashed on them. So
it took me for a ride. I was in the back seat, like in the kinder seat.
Oh boy, yeah.
It was the scariest ride I've ever been in, and I was just like, I didn't know these were Like I don't know why I didn't know they were performance cars. Like I knew about GT3s. I had seen one, and I was like, "Whoa, that's a thing."
To me at the time, like the high, like super high end like car that I really strived for was like an E92 M3. Like,
right, same.
Like, oh my god, that is like the bee's knees, and I would 100% get that over any 911. Like, how could you want a 911 over an M3 or something like that?
So you apply.
So it took me a little while to apply. So 1 week, I had a shit service advisor next to me. Who I always feel as though the people in life that tell you can't do something, you should listen to them and prove them wrong. So that was like my biggest thing to prove him wrong. So 1 week rolls around, I tell him like, oh man, that's a really cool position to, sell Porsches. Not telling him I want to go for it, but I was like, wow, I can't believe that's available.
He's like, you're going to miss the opportunity to sell new Beetles?
No, he didn't say that. He's like, they'll never take anybody like you on for your age. I was 19 at the time. 19 going, no, I was 20. I just turned 20 years old.
And that's coming from your boss?
From the lead service advisor. You could say he was like a manager of mine. So first week rolls around, it's still available. He says that. Second week rolls around, I'm like, shit, this job is still available. And I'm internally thinking, it's down in Massachusetts at the time, so it'd be a huge change for me. I'm still living with my dad, don't have my own apartment. Like,
you're a kid.
I'm a kid. So second week rolls around, I'm like, you know what? If that is available next week, I'm going to apply.
Yeah.
So third week roll. Sorry, I tap and fidget. So, third week rolls around, job's still available. I'm like, screw it. Send him an email. Hey, really interested in this position. Love to chat more. He's like, yeah. He sends me back an email shortly after. Would love to chat with you. Go ahead and give me a phone call. Called him, talked for like 5-10 minutes. He said, yeah, I'd love for you to come down and interview. And I was like,
and this is in Westwood.
And this is in Westwood, Massachusetts.
Yeah. The big city.
Yeah, it really was.
Relative.
And so I was like, oh my God. So he's like, send me your application. And so how do you, dropped out of college, vocational automotive high school, did some sales, like Honda sales for a short period of time. Like, why would he take someone like me on other than
you're moldable?
Yeah, there it is. So go down, interview with Mike Luckner. People in the Massachusetts area. Mike Luckner's been at this Porsche dealership for 20 plus years. I owe him my extreme gratitude for how much of opportunity he gave me.
He's
to
a
go
G.
on.
Let's get him on the podcast.
Yeah, no, you really should have him on the
He's
podcast.
owned so many ridiculous cars too.
Unbelievable. So Mike, go down, interview with this. You need to see. He's like a brick house.
He's like the brawny man. Is that the right? No, the Mr. Clean. He's a little like Mr. Clean.
Looks like
he's like
Mr.
a
Clean.
strong, big white guy, but he's friendly, but also like terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, he has his like this stone cold look with his like ice blue eyes. It like stares through your soul.
He's somebody that like if he was, I think I would like. He makes you feel really good about yourself. He really does. He's the kind of guy.
That's why he's such a sweetheart. He's
definitely
the
a sales
nicest guy. Yeah.
But I fear if he were angry with me.
I've seen him angry.
Ooh.
Oh, it's a scary experience.
Yeah.
So, any case, go down, interview. I'm nervous as all hell. It was with Mike Lookner. I was there for I think close to 2 hours talking about cars and how much we love cars and just talking about different generations of cars and his muscle cars and my car pass. I was driving a Jetta GLI at the time, a 2014. Yeah, 2014 Jetta GLI, 6-speed manual, white, sick little car. So interview goes awesome. So he's like, okay, I'm 20 years old at the time. He's like, okay, so I want you to come down for a second interview in about 1 or 2 weeks. I want you to come back with questions about Porsches, how the dealership works, this, that, and the other.
How were those 2 weeks?
You best believe that I wrote like 3 pages back to back of these crazy questions about how the whole ordering system goes, how does inventory management, and just all these questions about Porsches and how it works. And I get there, so I go down for my
Isn't it funny how when you're interested in something, you can just dedicate psychotic amounts of time to learning how to do it right?
I was losing my mind. Like I was like, oh my god,
I want
that. I want that. As soon as you go in the dealership and smell like that nice leather interior they have, it's such a nice feeling going into a Porsche dealership. It's like the cars are awesome. Like everything is so cool. So I get down there, I opened up my notebook with like all these questions, and Mike looks down like wide-eyed. He's like, holy shit. He's like, you got the job. I just want to see what you did for questions.
Wow.
Yeah. So he saw the dedication right there. So
that's fantastic.
So next question, how soon can you move down here? 3 weeks. Okay. I'll see you in 3 weeks.
And you've never lived anywhere else before, right? Like you've just been living with mom or dad. Yep.
Yeah. This little, grew up in Southern Maine.
Yeah.
Very small, just small communities.
So you did the typical thing. You found
my cousin was living down here in Providence. He went down to PC and he graduated. He was living with his girlfriend.
Lawyer.
No, he's not a lawyer. What did he go to school for? I think it was like sports management, something like that. No, Steve, my other cousin in Maine, he is a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Steven. We've had some hilarious times. He's like my brother that I never had. He's a really cool kid. You'll have to have him on. He's a very interesting kid.
So now you're working at Porsche.
So moved down 3 weeks later. I'm 20 years old selling Porsches.
What? All right. So I have a lot of questions, and that's great background. Like that's a fun story because it tells you like I see a lot of young kids who don't know what their path is, and the more and more YouTube starts to be the thing. I mean, what does every kid want to be? They don't want to be an astronaut. They want to be a YouTuber. Yeah. They want to do dumb.
They want to be
shit.
an influencer. They
want to influence people.
Yeah.
So I think like it's important to show that like, hey, there's other options. Like you can also make a career doing
I suggest
other stuff.
everybody should, like, it's not for everybody going to college. Do not, like, if you're unsure about going to college, don't go.
It's a lot of money.
Wait a year or two. Figure yourself out. Figure your life out, because life is too short to spend 4 years of your time going to college to find out that you wanted to go a completely different career path.
I mean, look at me. I just spent 10 years doing a career that was fine, and it bought me some cool cars, and I've seen the world, and I there's a lot of benefits to what I did. I mean, it's not like, I think a lot of people look at like, oh, I did this and I wish I did something else. It's not like that. There's always a give and take. It's just that like how much happier could you be if you did something else? But so I want to talk about the Porsche buying process, because Porsches, unlike, let's say, hypercars. I mean, they make a 918 every once in a while, something like that. But
supercar type of deal.
Porsches, they don't put real production runs on almost all of their cars. Like they have like a few cars that have production runs. Even when they do, they're huge. Like the Speedster is 1948, right? That's a lot.
They'll never have so much of a revolutionary new design, though. It'll always be just a very meticulous evolution of the the brands and the brand's identity into its modern day cars, and it's just modernizing itself around current day society.
As a dealer though, I mean, you're tasked with two things. One is you've got to be able to take a customer who says, I want a custom car, right? I've got to, I want to build it to my specification. And another side of it is now the dealership, once they trust your taste, you're able to build cars, configure them, and you're able to say like, hey, let's bring this into dealer inventory, which must be very fun, but also terrifying, because if your car is the one sitting in the showroom for 7 months, you look like an asshole.
Yeah, you do.
So tell me, I want to hear about two things. I want to know about what it's like to deal with customers that have taste and don't have taste that you have to correct, or that you just have to cave into. And then the other thing is I want to talk about like what it's like to order a car for the dealer.
All right. So let's talk about... let's answer the first question. What someone comes in, they want a custom order, say 911. So I kind of think of it as a couple different levels of how the customer state is, their mental state. Like, are they willing to compromise? So say if they want this very, very specific car and these options, and it's something that's so out of the ordinary and just doesn't exist on any type of dealer lot. The nice thing with Porsche is that there's a good amount of inventory around for somebody if they are looking, like say if they, and most people are not as specific as myself or you when it comes to shopping for a car.
I'm the
like
worst.
that.
I mean, like I'm not like that. Like you guys are spec people. Like most of my personal friends, like you and David and Will.
Wait till Will PTS gets on. He's crazy.
Like you guys are insane. I'm like I have never chosen the color of a car I've bought. It's always just been like, well, I'll deal with it. Right. So all right, keep going. Sorry.
So if someone says I want a lighter color car or a lighter interior with a darker exterior, when you kind of get down to a hot list, like they want, first pick is, what's your number one pick? Is it black, blue, white? What is it?
Because you're doing the dealer thing. You're trying to get them a car that either exists in your inventory or exists somewhere else that you can trade. Yeah,
exactly. And you say the dealer thing, but I'm such a people person that I just love making sure that my clients are just taken care of and they have the right thing that they're really going to be happy with. The old salesman mentality of, oh, you want a red car? Well, how about a yellow one? Like I hate the words like stuffing someone into a car. That's like an inside industry type of thing.
Right.
You cram that person in that car. You don't care what they want. It's what we want.
So let's say somebody wants something that's really specific. They're like, I want PTS, or I want this color. I saw this color down at the gas station. And I want it, but I want it lighter, and I want this, I want that. And you're like, okay, well, we can do that. And it cost at the time $7,000. Now it's $12,000, right?
Paint.
What is it like to go through? What are the channels that you go through to get those things? Like, how does it work? Like, I want a PTS car now. Do I just get one because I have $12,000? No. What do I need to do?
So Porsche,
whose dick do I need to suck?
To get this car. So when it comes to ordering Porsches, it's they actually have an awesome internal ordering system, and shout out to Porsche for the reps as well that work on the other side of ordering the cars and at the factory in Germany and everything like that. They're awesome to work with.
For anyone who's listening who doesn't understand Porsche land, PTS is paint to sample. Paint to sample is a glorified way of saying a non-standard color, right? I mean, you can get whatever you want. It goes crazier and crazier, but a lot of them are just there's a catalog of like you can have oak green metallic. You can have this and that.
I love oak green. That's a great color.
It's a good color.
Yeah, it has some like gold flakes.
But anyway, sorry, I interrupted. I just figured context. I think not everybody knows.
So there's so if someone says, "Hey, I want a signal yellow," which is a PTS color. So it's on the Porsche PTS, their internal list. They have this really nice list that tells you all the paint codes and colors that are available. You also have to make sure the color is approved for that car too, because they may have colors that are available, but that means that, it could mean that it's only available for the Cayenne and it hasn't been proven on the 911, which doesn't make any sense. Proven. Yeah. No, Porsche actually goes through, so say if you had a completely off the cuff type of color and it's never been made before, you have to send Porsche samples of your color. So we had this awesome client, she wanted a pink Targa. And
I know this car.
You've seen this car. It's awesome.
This car.
I forget it's like Spectre Pink or something, 34. It's like a really interesting name for a color. And so she wanted a pink Targa, and it would stop at nothing to get one from the factory. Okay. So we sent Porsche, I think up to 12 samples over time of like a color of pink that this customer wanted, and they finally approved it after like close to 2 years of sending them samples, and they were trying to replicate it, and just because they can replicate it doesn't mean they're going to approve it. So they have to actually spray it and make sure that it's going to, you know, last up to their warranty standards, right?
And does that end up costing the same amount? Like if
it
I
doesn't-
just said, oh, I want signal yellow.
So all PTS colors will cost the same
Okay.
amount. So they just went through the effort of literally getting these like 2x2, not that big, but maybe like 12x12 sheets of metal that were painted a certain shade of pink, and then sending them over to Porsche
Sure.
to try and get them approved. So going back to that, so say, you know, signal yellow, we're gonna push it through, and Porsche will only do paint a sample certain times of the year as well, which some people don't. It's kind of interesting.
I did not know it was seasonal.
Yeah, they only do it with certain time frames and certain production runs as well. They'll only do PTS. So that's like at the beginning of Will be able to clarify this more, but at the beginning of a run of, like, say, the new generation GT3, you actually won't see PTS cars. You'll see them later in the run.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so say there's an open order slot. We put in that we want to paint a sample and this leather interior and these specific options. Then it goes into the system. And PTS takes longer than a typical turnaround. So a typical turnaround will be about 3 to 4 months from when you order the car. Sometimes a little quicker for faster production cars like Macans and Cayennes, if we can get it really close to when the car is actually going to go into production. But I typically tell people 3 to 4 months.
So there's a turnaround. They're seasonal.
And so PTS will take like an extra couple of months as well. So even though we get it in, it may be 6 months until you actually see your car.
How does it get decided whether, like, I walk in off the street and I'm like, hi, Zach, you're my sales guy. I want this. I want that. I mean, I assume not everybody who wants it gets it. How does that work? Is it just at the discretion of the salesperson?
So,
or do you get like slots that you're like, I'm only allowed to request X number?
no, you can request as much as you want. It's just up to, is the factory going to allow that production of the car at that time? Is it an actual PTS run? Is the car and close to end of production, and they need to get those GT3s out now, and to make way for the 992, and they're like just at the end of production. They just don't have the allocated spaces available for a PTS car.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I mean, I've had customers get approved for PTS, and then I've had other people that I'm like, hey, unfortunately, we just can't do it.
What about there's another level. So like the airline industry, you can fly all your miles, you can get your platinum status, or if you were United, it was 1K, but there's always a secret tier.
So you're talking about the VIP program.
CXX.
So CXX and the VIP program. So to get on the VIP program, you had to buy a 918 Spider. So I think it was halfway.
Like to even be in it, you had to have been.
And
wow.
so the VIP program gave you the first right of refusal for any special production
So it's that
car.
new? It's that new?
Yeah, so it came out for the 918 program.
I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
thought this was like way back. I didn't know that.
So CXX is way back, like Porsche. So CXX is Porsche's exclusive department.
Okay,
So
but
they called
the
it
idea,
originally, I think, Special Wishes.
Yeah, but the idea of the idea of VIP is a relatively new thing.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Which makes sense
VIP,
because the
but then
918.
there's also another level. VVIP.
Oh, the VVIP.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, there's only like 9 people in that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's like a guy, the Sultan of Brunei and Jerry Seinfeld.
So
Open
interesting.
invitation to Jerry Seinfeld. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
He'd
Well,
know.
also like the family members of Porsche are in the VVIP program. You're gonna have to talk to Will Lee about some of those cars that they have made as you saw, they're absolutely wild and they're so cool.
Well, I think it's really interesting because this is what happens in the Porsche
That's
world.
like the brake calipers on Porsches. As people in the Porsche realm know that you can have you can only
yellow and red.
yellow and red brake calipers,
But
but
hey, I saw one with black. It's like, yeah, well, that's like Ferdinand Porsche's granddaughter.
yeah, or no, like blue.
Yeah. And they're like, well, it's
We
so
can't do
funny
that.
how this works because what you end up with these clients who are like, Veruca Salt. They're like, but I want it. How come they have it? It's like,
Yeah.
well, because they're more special than you, objectively,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. So
Like-
yeah, I mean, what's the history with you with Porsche? how many Porsches have you bought?
Yeah.
And Porsche isn't so bad. Like I'd say like Ferrari, for example, I think is terrible when it comes to treating their customers. I don't work for Ferrari or anything like that.
Isn't that the allure though? Isn't it
that they'll like deny
I think it's this
people
like
cars.
Yeah, it's like this dom sub BDSM thing where it's like somebody who's super wealthy is basically paying to be treated like shit.
Yeah,
and they're
buy
like,
all these Californias and we'll maybe give you access to buy the I don't know, the 599 or the 812 super fast or whatever their newest variant is going to be.
Yeah, you're not getting a TDF unless you own 12 cars.
There it is. Yeah, they'll look at the cars that you'll own. Or like for the Ford GT, I thought that was the stupidest program. The Ford GT where you had to write a letter.
So
that's the stupidest thing.
I'm going to start my Ford discussion by saying like I really like Ford's marketing department. I know people. I'm not going to say her name, but she's wonderful, and I think she's involved me in everything. But some of the moves Ford makes blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like the Ford GT.
Have you heard the program where they like, if you spent a certain amount of money, they'll lock the color and they won't paint that color on any other Ford?
Ford will do that?
Yeah, for the Ford GT. Some dude. What's that crazy Cobra color? Like the Mystic Chrome or something like that. The Cobra where it's like blue in certain lights and purple and green or stuff like that. I was watching a video on
awful chameleon colors, like the thing
those.
that like people used to paint
so
like
cool.
Mustangs like that.
Yeah,
like
it's a Mustang. Yeah,
Whoa.
it's like Mystic Chrome. Oh my god, you're gonna get so much backlash.
I'm okay with that.
I love it.
Hey,
it's probably love hate, right? Is with everything.
Well, I mean, it's like that color is like peak Chip Foose.
Huh?
Yeah, Chip Foose is like big chrome wheel. Chip Foose is basically like if Chip Foose was a car, he'd be a Plymouth Prowler.
Can you pass me that water bottle?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I'm dying over here.
Dead bug on it.
That's fine.
It was interesting that they did the apply for our GT thing. It was fun for like a second, and then it was like, this is really lame.
But
and then
dudes
they
were
increased
getting
production numbers.
People were getting like they weren't getting approved, even though they owned like multiple Ford Mustangs and like they had a Ford GT. But that necessarily didn't mean that you were going to get one. I found that the stupidest thing.
Yeah, it was. I
think it was more a big marketing scheme, so that way they can market the car more. Because who got one? Like John Cena got one.
John Cena got one to their dismay. I think they regretted that allocation.
Yeah. Then he immediately tried to sell it. But get this, there's also like you couldn't sell it for 2 years.
Right, you had to keep it.
That was so dumb.
Which, if anything, like it might be like, oh, Ford versus John Cena. If anything, John Cena brought a lot of attention. To the car.
to the brand, to the company. Oh, John Cena has that. That's with like any type of like
I think they were afraid of the resale value. I think they were terrified that this car, they locked in production numbers and they lied about it because they went and made more of them. But I also think that. I mean, look at McLaren. I'm going to have Dr. M3 on the podcast. He has a lot to say about McLaren, and we'll do that, and I'll never tell David. But
blacklist him from that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the P1 prices are tumbling, and Senna's could be next.
I think Senna's are going to drop.
12Cs still haven't hit the rock bottom, dude.
That's
They're
scary.
still on the way
They're
down.
under 100K. That's crazy.
I mean, we know people who are scooping up 600 LTs close to $200,000 for like a no-mile car, like a new car, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's not good.
Yeah, that's not.
And they're great cars. I'm not shitting on McLaren. I'm shitting on
the resale and shitting on also the how many cars they were producing for how many people are out there to actually buy them. That's the problem. They're trying to grow so quickly and they're innovating so quickly that cars are getting, they're becoming obsolete within 1 to 2 years.
So typically, I'm going to give you some numbers. Typically, they sell 1,000 cars a quarter. And last quarter,
that's a lot of McLarens.
Guess how many they sold last quarter? 307. That's not good.
Yeah, that's not
you don't have to be a CEO, a mathematician. Really, all you need to know is that's a bad thing. Now, if anything, it's probably just maintaining resale values by there's less on the market.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, McLaren's made. I have a lot of respect for McLaren for what they do as an engineering company.
Yeah,
I'm very worried about
600 LT,
720, 765 LT.
That car's sick.
There's crazy stuff. And
they're really challenging. I feel the status quo too with some of the hallmarks out there, like Porsche.
Well, there's old cars that I still want. Like I want an old. I mean, like it's 5 or 6 years, but like I still want a 675 LT. That's a crazy car.
I want one
that
so
wing
bad.
Is awesome.
Once those get down to like low 100s, you and I should pick one up.
Yeah, when it gets to the point where it's like, if this is eventually worth zero, I could stomach it. Yeah. All right.
But McLarens scare me outside of warranty.
Oh,
Unlike Porsches don't.
No, Porsches don't scare me outside of warranty.
But it's funny how McLarens, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
I don't want to own that outside of warranty. I think we're getting distracted here.
We are, and that's fine. But all right, so what dragged you out of the car industry? Because you didn't stop at Porsche. You ended up at Mercedes. You ended up at Land Rover.
Yeah. So
whatever. I mean, what's the?
Yeah. So I left Porsche. I was a finance manager and like one of their top salespeople for the dealership. Had
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, had some of the funnest years of my life flying around to California or down to Atlanta for Porsche.
Yeah, you got
trainings.
to do some cool events.
Yeah, the new 911 launches, the 718 launch.
I don't know if I want to spend time on that, but
that hot rod.
Oh yeah, they've come around.
Yeah,
they figured it out with the GTS. Now we get a 4-liter.
Yeah, GTS 4.0. That's a very cool car.
Isn't it crazy how nobody cares about the 718 GT4? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I think it's
a
great.
cool car.
I agree. I think in 20 years it'll be like 80s air cooled 911s where suddenly people are like, hey, these are pretty sweet. They like neuter them in weird ways, and it's not even power anymore, because like I don't need more power. It's just they still gear them really weird. They do odd things.
I think they changed the gearing for the 718 GT4. I just haven't driven one.
I've heard they're still long. I've heard second gear is still really long. Yeah, which is where like old Sharky Alex up at Sharkworks.
Yeah, nothing Sharkworks can't fix.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'll gladly fix that.
Yeah,
like honestly, maybe they're like helping that weird like aftermarket thing.
Yeah,
like they're like, hey Alex, guess what? These gears are bad.
Yeah.
You're going to make a lot of money off of
this. Maybe. That'd be actually pretty funny.
And we left a little room on the table for you to bore this out to a 4.01.
I think Sharkworks does some of the coolest things.
Alex is fantastic. And he's actually he's a friendly
person.
Have you
met him?
Never, but I've talked to him on the Instagrams. He's very nice, very nice guy.
They do some cool shit.
That's what I like about the Porsche community. Tends to be very humble, and I hate that word, because I feel like humble is a word that only,
it's overused.
It only gets used
really
for people that you expect to be assholes, and then if they're just basic, decent human beings, you're like, oh, he's so humble. It's like, he's not humble. He's just like he's just a normal person. We use this for rich people all the time, where we're like, oh, I met so and so. They're so humble.
And they're
it's
so
like, well,
humble. It's like,
were they, or were they just didn't slap you in the face with like a $50,000 watch? Is that really what you're saying? Because that's not humble. That's just decent.
I feel as though I don't know. I've dealt with a lot of pretty well-off people, and it's always interesting to see the paradigm between people that have worked hard all their life for every single dime that they've had, and they didn't come from anything, or the people that had money and then made something of themselves. So it's always interesting to see how you can tell somebody is raised or what their whole mentality is just by their upbringings.
100%.
I get along so well with the people that worked hard all for their life to get these things.
Or like
because they understand the hard work that goes into things.
Or wealthy people whose parents were present in their childhood and actually showed them like, hey, like you have to be your own person. Like, we know you're never going to need to worry about anything. But you should also not be an asshole.
So don't spoil their kids.
Right. Don't spoil their kids.
You know what? And you can have, people that come from humble beginnings, but they spoil the shit out of their kids, and their kids are just rotten assholes.
Well, one thing we forgot to talk about was, we could talk about spoiled rich kids all day. One thing we forgot to talk about is the when you were given the keys to the shop, when you get to spec your own Porsche.
Oh, so cool.
Like, what is that?
Can we actually back up a little bit?
Go ahead.
When I first started working for Porsche, the first Porsche I drove down there was a 991.1 C2S.
That's the car.
I came back from, it was a PDK, Sport Chrono, Sports Exhaust. I came back from that. Oh my God. I came back from that drive shaking.
It's so good.
I couldn't believe the way that this car made me feel. I couldn't believe the sound it made, the feeling it gave you when you load it up in a corner.
There's a thing
PDK
that happens.
transmission, how fast that thing is. It's unbelievable.
When you come from Jettas, you come from Subarus, you come from normal cars, good cars. The fastest
car I've ridden up to that time was probably a an STI.
Right. No, 300.
Yeah,
horsepower.
or a Golf R with a tune.
Yeah. But there's a thing that happens when you get into a car like a Porsche or something that's kind of in that $100,000 range. They're better. And it's funny
Dude, the
because
fit and finish,
Oh my God.
the way the interior wraps around you, how the classic Porsche front end, how you have the two headlights that are they're raised up a little bit, so you know exactly where the wheels are.
well, it's fine details too, because the thing is, when you get in like a Cadillac, you're like, ooh, leather. Ooh, this button is here. Or like, oh, I've got steering. It's like these just objective things that you're like, oh yeah, but like a Cadillac still drives like every other car.
Yeah, there's
like,
a difference between features and engineering.
And then when you get into a car like a 911, there's all the fine details, like the way the brake pedal feels, like every detail.
The way that the center console is it's the waterfall effect, how it's raised up ever so slightly, so that way the controls are so close to the steering wheel. They took that design from the Carrera GT, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I'm like, why don't all cars do this?
Think about every car you ever drove as a kid, and how like once in a while you'd take them up to Redline, and you're like, wow, this thing's gonna explode. I better not do that too much. You do that in a 911, and it's just like, you should do this all the time.
Yeah, we should be at Renline all the time.
You're welcome. Come on, do it.
And that just goes into like just the history of Porsche. They're an endurance racing company. They have like the most manufacturer wins of any manufacturer out there. How many times have they won Le Mans now?
I don't know,
18, 19 times. No big deal.
I'll have to go look at the posters and Crouch
And that
42.
trickle down effect just
me.
goes into all cars. That was my main accent coming out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, love the brand. Anybody that hasn't driven a Porsche or hasn't experienced one, go drive one.
Yeah, a lot of you always see people like, oh, just a fancy Beetle. It's like, oh, I mean, look, you can miss out on it if you'd like. It's fine if you like. I can't make you appreciate something aesthetically, but I can probably make you appreciate something mechanically, and it doesn't take much more than a drive.
I mean, you don't even need to be
out.
going fast in them to feel like.
Well, actually, so that brings me to my other thing about Porsche lately is like driving like a normal Porsche today, even a GT car. I was driving a 991.2 GT3. My friend Chris Benvey lent me his before he sold it. He moves in and out of cars like crazy, but it was the second time I had driven it, and I took it for the day. And I went up and picked up Will Thibodeau, and I was like bored. I was bored.
Yeah,
I was driving this car and it's PDK, and it's I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
You just had it in drive.
Yeah, I was just kind of cruising. I wasn't doing anything crazy.
Well, that's also like the beauty, though.
Well,
like
that's
just
what I
how
figured
refined.
Because then I got on
the car
it.
is.
I took it out to some fun clover leafs, and I found some nice back roads, and I was like, oh right, that's why this car's so good. Because not only can I go and just casually
putter around like every other 911
and drive like you're driving a normal car. I'm not looking at potholes like I'm horrified by them. Like my 911 don't hit stuff when they're doing road work and there's like they say bump. Listen, don't assume there's no bump. You will
will feel that will
God
send shocks through your body.
I lost fucking teeth on that thing.
But
the new ones, they do that. They have this like the duality of nature where they're like basically a normal car, not quite on the McLaren hydraulic suspension level, but they're a normal car. And then you get on it and you rev it out to 9,000 RPM and it blows out my microphones. Like I have a winding road video on that car and I'm like, I can't even record this. This is ridiculous.
I love GT.
So now you've got the keys to the shop. You're allowed to order a car.
Cars.
What does that look like? And do you get like fear where you're like, oh God, someone better buy this thing or else I look like an asshole?
I don't get that fear. I get excited. I get so damn excited because you get to create your own masterpiece.
When you come back, we're going to do another question, and it's going to be, what's it like to have confidence?
What's that like, Zach?
What's that like?
No, and like, so you kind of get. So the Porsche ordering system, if you go on Porsche.com, it's like the identical system that the consumer has, except you get some more features. Like you have your inventory that you get to create cars for, but the configurator and everything like that, like you came in, like I showed you configuring cars and so forth. It's pretty close to what the consumer configurator has on the website, which is so damn cool. Mercedes is ass backwards.
A lot of people, like, that's their hobby. Like, every time like a new car drops, they're like, oh, the configurator's live. And I'm like, I could not be bothered.
Oh, I'm the exact opposite. I love
Porsche though. I like Porsche's configurator. Every other configurator is
like the 718 GTS. The GTS 4.0 hasn't come out yet, and I keep checking it weekly. I'm like, when is it going to come out? I want to spec one.
Configurator investment is huge. I think you've got to have a good configurator. Like Lotus, for example, they're kind of like they're like 70% there. Like it works, but like the image that you see when you configure like an Evora GT, it's like a little cartoony. You can't really tell what you're looking at.
No, Porsche, like when you do like a special color on the inside trim, it'll show you it. It'll show you the deviant.
What about the options though? Like like you could take like at the time, right? You were working there during the 991.2 generations, right?
Yep.
So you could take what did they start at? Like an $89,000 Carrera S or something like that, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Carrera S's are more. They start out life at like 110. Base Carreras start out at like upper 90s.
Okay, so you could add like probably $100,000 to that.
Oh yeah.
So what the hell? And as a dealer inventory, like where do you stop? Like where do you say like we're done here?
Meat and potatoes. Think of that, right? Like what are the core meat and potato options that someone's going to look for in a car like this to, for it not to feel goofy? So
do you set a budget first? Do they say like, hey, make a car, don't exceed 160?
You start to get a good feeling for where a car should be. So it's like the no-brainer options. Like, okay, you want a sunroof. They want Bose. They want heated seats. They want ventilated seats.
Boring.
Yeah. Right.
This is why I don't do this, because I'm so bored already.
Oh, no, I love it. It's like a game. It's such a fun, challenging game. And so, you just get the right meat and potato options that, you are going to, is going to make the car a whole car. It's not going to feel goofy. Like you're not going to not have keyless entry on a $150,000 car.
And
which is crazy that they still don't have that as a standard option.
Well, and that's why you need to have someone help configure your car, because if I was coming in as a customer, I might accidentally not do that.
I can't tell you how many times heated steering wheel would be missed over someone just speccing a regular, like a Cayenne or a Macan. Your $60,000 Macan or your
you make assumptions.
It's
a standard thing.
Yeah. And they'd be like, what? It's not standard? I'd be like, yeah. So many times when someone comes in and spec a car, quite often I would be adding a couple more options with them just because it doesn't make any sense that it doesn't have it. Like sunroofs aren't standard on Macans. Okay.
But when you're doing a dealer car, you're keeping it likable, let's say.
Yeah.
It's for public consumption. I've seen a couple cars where customers were insistent on certain options that you were basically forced to order.
Oh yeah. No, I've had my fun share of, people that want the most awful specification, and at the end of the day, customer gets what they want, right?
Like bright blue or green or whatever, like interior, like vents, air vents.
Oh yeah. No, I remember this dude ordered what was it? I think it was a dot 2 Turbo S, sapphire blue, so pretty blue, nice and bright. Espresso cognac, brown and caramel interior, with sapphire blue painted trim on the inside with red gauges.
I remember this car.
Yeah,
I remember when it came in. Most cars that you ordered, I'd be like, "Ooh, I want to sit in it."
Yeah,
I've sat, and it's funny. Like I knew like some of our friends, like Kevin Song's GT3, I think, came in.
That's a nice
I remember,
spec.
I think I sat in that car before he saw it, because I was just like, it still had the seat covers on it, and stuff, but I was just like, oh, it was the first. That was the first manual .2 GT3 I'd seen.
That came in.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my god, this is Kevin's car. That car, I remember that car came in, and I was just like,
oh no.
Oh my God. I didn't want to sit in it because I didn't want it to rub off on me.
That's like we had another funny one was a customer that ordered like the Ronald McDonald edition GT4. So they did yellow.
Nothing like a bright red dashboard.
All right. So it's yellow, red calipers. So it's already goofy looking. You're like, that doesn't really fit. Bright silver wheels. Inside.
Normally we like that.
Yeah. Inside it's yellow trim with red stitching and red gauges. It was awful. It was fucking awful.
So like, I know
it was so bad. It was like the Ronald McDonald just spec'd out a car, and you're like, whoa.
I know we made fun of McLaren's resale value, but like, oh my God.
The funny thing is, Porsche guys will get over it.
I know.
They'll get over it.
Yeah. All right. So now you're not in that game anymore.
No, I've left.
You're out of the sales. Well, you're not out of the sales world.
No.
So where are you now? We're sitting there. So.
Yeah. We are at Garage 42 in Rennscot. Yeah. Split building. Really cool building. So what is Rennscot? What is Garage 42? Okay, so
Let's talk about Garage 42 first, because every episode I think I'm going to be like live from, not live,
Yeah,
but we're
from
coming
what?
from Garage 42.
So Garage 42 is car storage, quite simply, right? It's high-end luxury car storage. So it's heated, it's cooled, humidity controlled. Every car that comes in here gets decontaminated, washed before it goes into the final area for storage area for cars. Car gets, let sit for 24 hours. That way all the water can get out of it, and then we put it in a car cover. Comprehensive check-in, check-out procedure. It's like the ultimate car guy garage for your cars.
And what do you do here?
I do it all. I sweep the floors and
You get the sales, you sweep the floors, you wash the cars.
Yeah, I do everything. So I'm the general manager of the operation. So
I love that. This is like a small, like a very, it is a relatively small operation.
Yeah.
But it offers a lot.
But I like how small it is because it allows me to have that tangible connection with my clients, with my customers that come in and store their cars. Because at the end of the day, you're storing your Ferrari with us. So you want to make sure that they know what they're doing, when they're storing a vehicle like that, or when you want to pick it up, you want to know that within an hour we'll have your car ready.
Yeah.
So you can come up and pick it up and enjoy it for the weekend.
I mean, my car's here right now, my M5, and I hate leaving my car anywhere. I hate the feeling of my car being at someone else's house, even when I know them.
Yeah.
And I have no qualms about it being here because I know it's under like 24/7 video surveillance. I know that David.
I actually thought about like bringing your car out and like actually buffing it because your paint pisses me off so much.
I apologize. I know.
Our car covers are nicer than your paint, huh?
That's true. Like my like paint is damaging the car cover.
Yeah, that's your car cover.
Yeah, that one's we put a T on it.
Yeah, it's Tom's car cover. I don't trust that thing on anybody else's car.
Yeah, no, it's bad. But that car is like that because I'm the second owner. The first owner was like a Cohasset, socialite who's just all he did was go back and forth to the golf course, and he had kids and whatever, so they sat in the back seats, and I know that car just was thrashed through Cohasset because he's one of those dudes who probably couldn't get a speeding ticket if he tried. He'd get pulled over and he's like, oh yeah, I fund the police. He's definitely one of those guys. He's a nice guy. I'm not shitting on him. He's fine. But granted, he didn't really come down on price, but whatever. I got the last lap. They went up in value.
Yeah, you did well on that.
That car's okay. But I know for a fact that car either went through like McDonald's car washes, right? Or like
McDonald's
car washes.
washes.
Like just like the yellow and red, like cloth
and
things.
the LED lights
Oh,
go
just
on.
horrible.
Yeah.
Not touchless. Or it went to like his dealer who did like those terrible
Scratchy
washes.
washes.
Yeah, they used like a friggin' like a
wheel brush.
A brush, yeah. They used the brush and they were like, yeah, we power and they sell it by being like, we're power washing your car. And you're like, no, the power washing's not the problem.
Yeah.
It's the brush. So yeah, the car's a lot of swirls.
Have you seen our water
the filtration?
Yeah, the filtration system we have.
So number one, I love the fact that you can wash cars indoors here because I hate chasing the drying cycle.
Never wash a car in the sunlight.
It's awful, and the water at my house is very hard. It's like instant.
Yeah,
it's like horrible.
So people don't know. So tell people about hardness of water and what happens when you wash a car. With
basically, there's a lot of minerals. I mean, water, although it looks like water, if you evaporate it down, there's stuff in there. There's minerals, there's lime, there's all kinds of stuff. And so what happens is when you wash a car and you've rinsed it all off, now you've got all and if you've done it correctly, you've got some beads, right? Because you've waxed it or whatever. Nice. But you've got a nice ceramic coat. But when the water evaporates quickly, all of the minerals and junk is left behind.
Dry on your paint,
and it dries on the paint, and it's hard. It's like really hard. It's like think of it like this. Yeah, think of it like this. If you didn't floss your teeth for like 2 weeks, you'd start to notice there's like some buildup in between your teeth. It's the same idea. It's just calcium. It's lime. It's all this junk, and it's very hard. You basically have to chisel it off the car. It's horrendous.
Oh yeah, you gotta polish it off the car.
So the best way way, if you do have hard water, you want to wash your car either indoors or in the shade where it's not going to evaporate too quickly. So that way you can collect it with a microfiber or like some sort of drying device. And you're going to want to use some lubricant along the way. This is why people like
spray wax.
ammo. Yeah, they use a spray wax. And it's not necessarily even to wax your car. It's just to lubricate the process of drying it so you don't scratch it in the process of drying it. But here at Garage 42, they've got these monster filtration things. So that way, like,
so it removes all the hardness from the water.
Yeah, you take out all that sediment, all that junk.
Yeah, so that way when we're washing cars, there's no possibility of water spots on your car.
It also just makes not only is it better for the car, it makes your job easier, like washing the car.
Yeah. Well, I just have a much more peace of mind in washing someone's car. So that way, when they bring the car in and the car comes out, like I want it to be looking better than what the customer gave it back to me.
Yeah.
That's just my mentality. Like I want. Yeah.
And right now, as of the recording, what's today, June 18th. So we're looking at probably like launching this officially toward the end of the summer with people coming in. Do we have a date yet?
Sorry, some guy pulled up in a S3. I don't know who that is.
We don't know who that is.
Yeah.
he's got 1552 wheels, not sponsored.
Yeah, that's a nice looking S3. So we're actually officially open now.
I didn't know. Congratulations, June 18th.
Yeah. Woo. So we're officially open. So unfortunately, when Garage 42 was ready, pandemic happened. So literally, as we were opening the doors, the world was collapsing.
It was bad. We were literally maybe 2 or 3 weeks away from the big Cars and Coffee event here. Where are we going to have a bunch of people here?
Yeah, so the whole marketing plan, or just the whole plan with this place was to have open houses, Cars and Coffee events, private showings for car clubs, like the Porsche Car Club, Ferrari Car Club, all of that stuff. We just couldn't do because the world came to a halt. Yeah. And now nobody is allowed in this facility or anything like that. So we are.
It's very weird.
Yeah. So we have to completely change our whole marketing efforts. So we're doing, Tom and I are going to be putting together some fun stuff with some videos.
Yeah,
look out for that next month. That'll be really cool. And once everything starts to open back up and we can have people in, we'll certainly have them in. But we're going to be just putting a lot more effort into our digital efforts for Instagram, for Facebook, for Google Ads.
I just think people are going to be excited to come here, whether or not they're storing their cars here. It's a thing to be celebrated, and that's exciting.
Yep.
I think that's the weird thing about the car thing now. It's like all the kids that run over to Ferrari New England and all this stuff every other day to take pictures, like they don't own Ferrari. Most of them don't own Ferraris. Most of their parents don't have the means for that, but they still celebrate the place. And I think this is one of those places where
we celebrate car guys. We celebrate car gals. We this is a car person, just Haven. All I want to do is talk about cars all day long.
I can imagine you guys doing car wash clinics where you're like, hey, let's teach you how to wash your car.
Yep.
Let's do that.
Yep. Oh, that's
Goldberg.
Yeah.
What? Hang on. What is going on?
Yeah, I think his car looks great.
Oh, Goldberg, your car looks fantastic.
Yeah, killer job.
I thought you were like some scoundrel.
I love that red, the black wheels. I think
I wouldn't
sick.
Mess with you with those wheels.
Yeah,
that looks good.
Yeah,
oh my goodness! All right, well,
I think have to do a video on that.
Yeah, this is probably a good place to wrap up, and we'll have you back anyway, and you're around.
Of course.
But thanks for hosting us here at Garage 42. I think this is a really good home for the podcast.
Yeah,
and I think we're going to be able to get a lot of folks in one-on-one safely.
Yeah.
Maybe David's dad can provide us with those 15-minute antibody tests that Joe Rogan's got.
Really?
That's a real thing.
Oh, I didn't even know
Joe
that.
Rogan, everyone that comes into his studio, they're doing an antibody test.
That's pretty
cool. So he can be like, oh, you have COVID-19 or you had COVID-19. Is that crazy?
That is crazy. I wonder if he surprised anybody. He probably has.
They've been wrong a couple times and they'll do it again. And I don't know. That's a thing.
Maybe it's not foolproof.
Well, thank you for being the test guinea pig on the first episode of Respect the Drive.
Yeah, this was fun. This is cool.
I'm excited. This is a big deal for me. I'm really psyched.
I love the setup, gear. Everything looks great.
It's fun.
Yeah, looking forward to these.
Well, thanks. And I don't know. I'm not saying goodbye because there's a lot of stuff to do.
We'll see you next time.
I'll see you next time. And don't forget to respect the drive.